When I sold Cottage Link Rental Management in 2022, we were running at 85% direct bookings. That didn't happen by accident. We'd been at it for 20 years, booking direct long before Airbnb was even a concept. For most property managers, though, direct booking remains one of the hardest things to build. Guests arrive through the OTAs, they stay, they leave, and you're left with almost nothing you can use to bring them back. That's the gap today's sponsor, Stayfi, is designed to close. And I'll be telling you more about them later in the episode. This is the Vacation Rental Success Podcast, keeping you up to date with news, views, information and resources on this rapidly changing short-term rental business. I'm your host, Heather Bayer, and with 25 years of experience in this industry, I'm making sure you know what's hot, what's not, what's new, and what will help make your business a success. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vacation Rental Success Podcast. This is your host, Heather Bayer, and as ever, I'm super excited to be back with you once again with another episode with my friend Jodi Bourne. We promised you after the last one we would be doing these quite regularly. We did have a little feedback from the last one, which we're going to talk about today. But if you've just joined me for the first time, let me tell you a bit about Jodi. Jodi's spent more than a decade helping vacation rental owners and property managers build hospitality brands that book direct. She runs Bourne Texan Consulting and does business as Bourne Creative STR Solutions. And she offers website design, branding and marketing strategy to owners and managers of luxury homes, mountain cabins, beachfront condos and glamping properties. Before Jodi found her way into the short-term rental world, she spent 15 years in marketing and communications, working with businesses, non-profits and tourism attractions. That earlier career still shows up in how she works now, structured, brand first, and allergic to generic output, which is why I love her so much. But her path into AI has followed a familiar shape for short-term rental professionals. Just like-minded, dabbling with early copywriting tools, then a real shift once large language models became conversational. What sets Jodi apart, though, is what she's built on top of that shift. Rather than treating AI as a faster way to write captions, she spent the past year developing a suite of custom Claude skills that function like an entire marketing department, a brand director that defines guest avatars and locks brand voice, a marketing director that builds a content roadmap, and specialists who write social posts, emails, and blogs in the client's own voice. The defining feature of Jodi's approach is a deliberate constraint. It's that skills won't produce usable output until the underlying brand work is done first. She calls her foundational document the Hospitality Brand Bible, which has the guest avatars, brand voice and brand story, and built her system so that a generic prompt simply won't run well without it. In practice, this means a property manager's marketing content reads like their own voice, not like the output everyone else is getting from the same generic prompt. Jodi and I are going to start working side by side on a lot of these AI-focused projects. You're going to hear a lot more of us to come. But for now, come on over and join in our conversation around AI, around Claude, around connectors, skills, plugins, and customization. So I'm super happy to have back with me once again, Jodi Bourne, and we are going to be talking AI because this is going to be a regular slot now over the next months and however long it goes on, however long we continue to be geeky and excited about AI. Welcome, Jodi.
Hello, Heather. Thanks for having me back again.
Yes, always such fun.
Yes, always such fun. And geek is the right answer, isn't it? The right word to use for this.
Yeah, we talked a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago. You got a little feedback from that, I think, saying that maybe we were a little too geeky.
I actually got feedback from two different people that basically said the same thing. It was really cool but I didn't understand a lot of it. And I really didn't understand how I could implement, like what I could do next. So even though it was a good introduction to some of the crazy stuff that we're geeking out on, nothing really solid for them to do next. And that's what we're here for, is to help people do next.
Yeah, and I think this one and the ones coming up, we're going to try and get some real teaching thingies in there so that at the end, people are going to go away and they've got something they can actually go and do. And since we're both trainers, we should be doing that. It's a bit like going to a lecture, isn't it? And just having the people sitting at the front chatting to each other and not to them. And we have had the chat before we started this. So
Yes.
we're done with the geeky stuff to a degree.
To a degree.
So let's talk about, we're going to talk about Claude today, because that's a platform we both work in. It's what we talked about last time. But there's one thing I want to kick off with is what we're calling the foundation problem. Because this is what I found when I was in UK last week or the other week for Scale with AI, is that people are just clutching onto these new bright shiny things and new platforms and wondering why everything is coming out sounding generic. So give your take on that and why we've got to get into building a foundation.
AI is meant to be generic. It has to be, and if you say out of the box, unpackage it, doesn't matter what tool you're using, ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or one of the newest things that's come out. Even Jasper, which was a tool I was using early on, I think you probably were too. You have to teach it who you are. And that teaching can come in a phase of just chatting, and it eventually can learn a little bit. But it really needs to come in a very structured way where you're actually teaching it the things about you, your business, your voice, your industry, and teaching it in a way that it not only understands, but honestly, it's just like having an integrator in your, are you familiar with the term integrator?
Oh, yeah, from EOS, from Entrepreneurial Operating Systems.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So just, yeah, of course you're familiar with that term, but just, it's like it's like having a sit down full day of here's my business and here's how I need your help. And you have to do that with AI. And that is what we call the foundation. I think you call it the brain, which I've used that terminology too. And then I've also called it the foundation or the foundations. And now I call it, for my vacation rental stuff, I call it the hospitality brand Bible. So it's just the foundation of everything that you are, do, and sell.
So it's all very well talking about that it's foundations and it's a brand Bible and my business AI brain. But we've got listeners out there going, what does that mean? How do I do this?
Oh, so you can create your own brain. Obviously, there's places that you can go to get help to figure out what needs to go into your brain. But once you create it with the model of your choice, once you create this system, it will output like an actual document. There's documents called a markdown file. You can use something like Notion if you use Notion, or even just Google Drive. Anything that you can use, and there's so many other tools that they're developing now that are even more beneficial for that purpose. But this becomes like a living, almost like an encyclopedia, wouldn't you say? It's a living encyclopedia of your everything.
Yeah, of your business. And the easiest way to do it, and this is what I was talking about at Scale a couple of weeks ago. And the easiest way to do it is just to go to your platform of choice. And from Why Hangry was talking about this, you'd go to reverse prompting. You tell the model to ask you questions.
Yep.
So you say, hi, Claude, I want to build a business brain. In that business brain, there's going to be my vision, my mission, my values, my business profile, everything I do, my location, the properties, my avatars, the people I'm writing to or speaking to, whether they be guests or owners, or if you're a vendor, it's clients. And then, of course, where your area, which is your brand voice and other branding style of things, and then workflows.
Yep.
And one by one, and this is not, and I've said this over and over again, so I'm on my soapbox now. This is not a 5-minute job. This is probably a whole day. Spend a whole day and ask Claude to ask you questions about every aspect of your business.
Yep.
And then you can also say, if I don't give you a fully comprehensive response, ask me a secondary question. And keep asking me questions on that until you're satisfied that you have got the full flavour of this part of my business. And that, it's as simple as that. And I think people they overcomplicate it and sit there going, oh, how do I do this? How do I do this? When in fact, you just ask Claude how you do it and it will tell you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All the time, almost daily, when I'm working with Claude or any of the tools, because I still work with all of them just to keep on them. But I'll say, can you ask me, or can you help me, or what would you do? And it will help you. It's really great about that. I developed a branding skill that asks a whole bunch of questions in order and to help create your brand story, your brand voice. And one of my favorite questions, so this is something that the listeners could do, is to help me define my brand voice as a celebrity. And that's a really fun exercise. If you haven't done it, it's really fun. You can upload some of your content or whatever and say, tell me which celebrity my voice sounds most like. And you can keep it lighthearted and fun, but it also turns into a document that really is very helpful when moving forward.
That is great. Do you use a voice to text?
Oh, yeah. I don't type it anymore.
I do not type anymore. When I find myself typing, I have to step back and say, why am I doing this? So I have mentioned on this show so many times, I use Whisperflow. I don't know what you use. Are you using the same?
I use Whisperflow. I like that it keeps your context, but I also just on my desktop computer, I just use the mic button and just start talking. But I'm trying to get in the habit of using Whisperflow on both desktop and my phone. I've used it on my phone forever, but that's a great tip. Just download that, spend the $15 a month or whatever it is on that app. If you're a thinker, then it's a good investment.
Yeah, and I'll put a link to Whisperflow in the show notes. And it is an affiliate link. And what it does, it gives me a free month and it gives you, the listener, a free month. So everybody wins. Yeah, but it's so many people are using it now. I introduced Steve Schwab to Whisperflow just a couple of months ago. I said, are you using Whisperflow? He said, what? But he is now. So, okay. So that is how you do your business brain. And if you want to find out more about this, so if you want to find out more about how you build your hospitality, your hospitality brand brain, if you like, then you just go to the link that we're going to put in the show notes for Jodi.
Oh, yeah. The Hospitality Brand Bible has a lot of stuff in it. It also includes what I call the property reference book, when it takes you through an entire system of build, because that's part of your brain, right? Your system, Claude, Gemini, whoever you're using, needs to know these things about your business, or you're going to spend so much time reminding it and telling it, whether that's you're writing guest communications or you're working on some operational, just it has to know your business and it has to be able to keep up with the changes as you go. And that does require kind of some thinking behind it.
Yeah. As I said, this is not a 5-minute job. But so once you've gotten that in place, then you can go wherever you want in any of the models, because those are files that you can use everywhere. It's not stuck into Claude. You can use them in ChatGPT. You can use them in Gemini, whatever you're using. But we're going to stick to Claude today, because I'm working with a client currently who's been using ChatGPT for the last 2 years. And we're now gently shifting him to Claude. So I created a Claude setup guide. And that was quite interesting, because I was creating that and I thought, gosh, there's a lot to it. It's been a long time since I opened up Claude and thought, how do I use this thing? So I want to go through a couple of things in that setup. Because I remember asking about connectors. I wanted to know what connectors were. And Claude said, oh, that's fine. I can tell you this. Go to Claude.ai, go to the platform, and on the left-hand side, click on connectors. And I went to the left-hand side. It does not say connectors. It says customize.
Yes, it changes. It just changes.
It does. Yeah. And I went back to Claude and I said, you don't even know your own site. I am so sorry. I made that error.
I gave it a screenshot one time. I said, exactly where is that button you keep telling me to push? Oh, I'm so sorry. Must have been an outdated model.
So let's kick off with talking about connectors, because that's one of the first things you're going to do. And we're going to assume that you've gone to Claude.ai, you've signed up, and you've paid your $20. Because, quite honestly, to do this professionally and to do this in any form of really impactful way, you need to have a paid model. That's
just
all
that.
I will say.
If you don't want to invest in that, then you don't even need to be listening. Yeah. Honest is what I think, because, and I hate to be that harsh about it, but you have to be, because sure, you can get some goodness from it, but it's never going to be at the level of being worth spending time if you're not going to invest in it. I probably spend $400 a month on all the AI tools I have.
Yeah.
And I would say it's the best investment in my business completely.
Well, absolutely. Because it's, we won't talk about people it saves you.
Everything. Everything.
But it does, yes.
You need the $20.
But $20 a month, definitely worth every cent. So that's the first thing. And when you get on there, you're going to go to the left-hand menu bar. And I would go straight down to customize. And let's just talk about connectors. What does it mean?
So there's some terminology called an MCP. And what that means is that's basically a connector. And that's the official name for an official connector. So all of these new products or all of these software solutions that are out there are building MCPs that connect with either Claude or the other AI models. Most of them connect with all of those. And what that means is basically you're connecting your Claude to all these other tools that are available. And the list becomes longer every week of what's been added to as a connector. Mm-hmm. Everything from your Google email, Gmail, Microsoft email, Outlook, I believe, and all the Microsoft products, Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Calendar, our native Asana for task management. I use it now. They just received a connection a couple of weeks ago for Xero, which is my accounting software. Mm-hmm. And it can't write to my accounting software, but it can read. So it creates dashboards and pulls my expense reports and all of that just at a drop of a hat. So those are what are called connectors. And then each connector can connect to multiple connectors. So it just is a way to make it everything more powerful because it's all working systematically like a person with hands. That's how you can look at it. It's a person with hands, and the hands can go to all of these individual places.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And I'll give an example of something that I do when I'm having a call with a client. So I have Fathom, which is a meeting note taker. So you might have something like Fathom or Gemini, or there's times when I'll open up a meeting and I've got 5 different note takers pop in of mine. Because Notion does one as well now. But Fathom is the one I most often use. So after the meeting, because I've got Fathom connected to Claude, I also have my G Drive connected to Claude. Mm-hmm. So I simply say, please go and collect. And I did this after we talked yesterday. And I said, go and collect the meeting notes from my meeting with Jodi on Fathom. Give me a summary of the meeting with action points, and then take that summary and put it in my G Drive in Jodi's folder, and then write me an email to send to Jodi to attach that summary and the action points. That's what I would tend to do when I'm speaking to a client, but it's all in one, and you just think of the time that saves. But that's because of those connectors. I don't have to go to Fathom and what I used to do and pick up the transcript and then put it into Claude. I just ask Claude to go and do that for me. And I think that's a really great example of how those connectors work. That's
a perfect example of how they work. And I do similar. I have a skill I'm connected to Asana. That's where my tasks live for my assistant, Hannah. And so I will talk into my phone, like in the morning before I even open my laptop or whenever. And if I'm thinking of new tasks for Hannah or just thinking through something, and then I will, on my phone, I use a tool called Dispatch on my phone, which dispatches to Claude. But basically, I just say, add these tasks for Hannah. And it's just like this rambling long, do this and do that. And, oh, wait a minute. No, she doesn't need to do that. I forgot. We already did this. And then it creates tasks for her in Asana, assigns them to her for the next day. And so that's another example of a connector. It's automatic. It knows what to do. I don't have to do anything except tell it, do this. And it does it.
Yeah, and that to me is just the awesomeness around connectors. So yes. I think for a first task is, if you haven't used this, is to go and set up your connectors to your Google Drive, your Google Calendar, and Gmail. And then play around.
Well, Microsoft, if you're using the Microsoft products, it uses the same ones. Yeah.
And then play around with it. Ask it to create a meeting for you.
Yeah.
Ask it to... I use another awesome little tool called Little Bird.
Oh, I don't know that.
I will come back to that later. That's really, it actually reads your screen. So you can see everything that's opened and reminds you that you said you were going to do something and you didn't. So it's really good for ADHD people. I'll come back to Little Bird. But anyway, you can use...
Download now.
You can use Claude to check your emails. Just say, can you go into my emails? Is there anything outstanding at the moment? So, yeah, great examples of how to use connectors. So that's the first thing you can do. If you haven't connected your connectors, do that now and go play. The next thing, so when you're going to customize, the other thing you're going to see is skills. So tell us about skills and just tell us about skills and what they are and what we can do with them.
So out of the box, Claude comes with skills that you can use. And what a skill is, when you first started with AI of any kind, people were selling prompts. They were selling like these custom instructions and giving away custom instructions where you had to put all this in, like acting as an SEO specialist or acting as a social media writer and do this and do that and remember my brand voice and use these words and I only post on Wednesdays and whatever your collection of prompts became. If you started this in this way, that got old, right? You were constantly writing the prompt, copying and pasting it from a Google Doc. And maybe nobody else did this. I know lots of people did, but this is what people were doing forever.
I was.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody was. That's just what you did.
Yeah, there's a collection of 500 prompts that you had that you never ever opened.
Yeah, I have an entire Notion database of prompts I spent $100 on that I've never looked at again. But what a skill is, in simply speaking, is custom instructions that basically are now in a / command. So you just have the command and all of those custom instructions are baked into the command. And you can buy skills. You can build your own skills once you get good at it. Claude can help you build skills. And as I said, Claude comes out of the box with some basic skills that you can use. And when you use it, everything in those custom instructions helps the output become better. And when you use it correctly, those custom instructions start to use things like the connectors that you're using or your brand voice document that you've created. It knows, I want to use this document as my reference. So, for example, I created a skill for destination blogging. It knows to use the host's destination. And then I have this thing called a destination, I forgot what that's called, destination book, but basically it tells all about the destination. And so that skill knows to use this source material. It goes to it every time. It never has to ask you, what do I need to know something about your destination. So that's what a skill is, basically these custom instructions. And they can be as long as you want. You can embed things into those skills. See, I'm getting way ahead of myself now, which I tend to do. But
okay, I'll give you an example of one of my skills.
Okay.
I have a project which is for my podcast. So let's say after I've finished with this episode and I have a transcript. My transcript's in Descript, so Claude is connected to Descript. So I will just say to Claude, go to Descript and find the transcript of my episode with Jodi, and then do your thing. What that skill is set up to do is when I say, and all I have to do is trigger it by saying, I've recorded a podcast episode. That's it.
Awesome.
I've recorded a podcast episode with Jodi. And it goes and finds a transcript. It will write the show notes. It will write me a LinkedIn post to promote it. It writes a Substack article, and it writes the beginning of my newsletter. And I have another newsletter skill which takes over from that. Mm-hmm. But that's what that skill does. It's I call it, I think, the transcript skill. So it just takes the transcript and takes that really raw material and publishes all these things. And I've done nothing apart from talk to you, which is great. And of course, once it has output all that, I am then going to read everything. And I'm going to correct it. And sometimes I'll cross out huge bits of it because I don't like it. But just as you said, my skill is, I haven't asked that skill to pick up my brand voice because it does it automatically.
Well, so it's baked into the skill to know to do that.
Baked into it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So you have the bones of a great agentic process there. Mm-hmm. Because now what agentic means is that you don't have to trigger it really with anything. It just does it all. That is pretty much agentic, except what you could do is say, set up a skill in Claude and Cowork, which is part of the desktop app. But every Tuesday, check for my most recent podcast, or check my Google Descript every day at 4 p.m. for a podcast recording.
Okay, so you're saying I don't actually have to go in and do that. I don't have to give it that trigger. I've just set it up to do it on a timer almost.
Yeah, it is on a timer. The only problem with that is if you're using a laptop, you have to keep your laptop open, because when you set up custom skills on a routine basis, it's best to do them at night or after kind of the peak hours so you don't use a lot of your credits up. But yeah, so I would set that up as a completely automated process. I have an example of an automation I use with a particular client. He writes his own blogs. He's a writer. He's very good at it. But I have to prompt him and remind him and guide him a little bit. So every time he writes a blog post, it drops into our shared Google Drive folder. My Claude checks that folder every 3 or 4 days. If there's a new blog post in it, it automatically takes it, gives a summary of it, gives my input, and then flags me that I need to review it. And then I can do a quick review and then tell Claude what I want to say, and it emails it back to him with my notes. And so that's another agentic use, is that you're your employee. It's basically your employee.
Yeah. So, but you're using Cowork for this. So maybe Cowork is what we discuss next time.
Yes, we do need to discuss Cowork, which is a whole nother subset of Claude.
Okay, so let's say, following what we've just discussed, somebody said, okay, I'm good now. I'm going to go and build a skill. What would you say that they do to start with?
First, come up with their idea is for what they want to do. And you can actually use Claude to interview you about what you want to do. I tell people, and when I'm working with people, the first skill I have them build is their morning coffee skill. We may have talked about that on your last episode, but I don't think
we did.
Maybe we didn't. I've been on a couple of different podcasts talking about that particular setup. So what it is, so I call it morning coffee. It's a skill that runs automatically at 6:45 every single morning. I wake up and go, and it reads all my emails, tells me a summary of important things, anything that I haven't replied back to in 2 days. It flags like Jodi, and it puts these stars beside it. Jodi, you haven't replied to Heather. It's been 2 days. I, too, have that call transcript thing that you said. So it reminds me to look at the transcripts of the calls, see what's going on there. It looks at my calendar, and then it gives me a summary every morning. That was a skill that I created, and I call it morning coffee. Other people just call it morning dashboard or whatever. And you can create whatever you do when you first get up in the morning, you're ready to work, and you open your laptop. What's the first couple of things that you do? Everybody reads their email. Everybody has to reply. Everybody has to check their calendar, see what's going on. If you're a host, you've got all these other things going on. You can actually create a skill where Claude looks into all of that for you. And that would be my idea for the best first skill to create. And you just go in and tell Claude, this is what I want. How can you help me do it?
And I think the real key here, and I've just said it a few minutes ago, don't overthink it. Right. Don't sit there now going, oh, there's just, my head's exploding. there's too much here. Do you remember Mars attacks?
Yes, yes, yes.
Aliens with the helmets on.
Yes.
Their heads exploded. I remember that. That was, awesome. Anyway, I don't want people to feel like they're in Mars attacks and their head's going to explode. Don't overthink it. If you've got a question, ask your model what you should do.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And I often go in and I say, hey, Claude, I'm confused about this. And it will come back and straighten me out. So I don't think there's anything I haven't... I don't think I get confused now because I can just ask that question and it will give me an answer. So I'm confused about what Heather and Jodi were talking about skills. How do I start my first skill? It should ask for some information on what you want to do, and then it will help you write that skill. So that's great. After 25 years in this industry, I can tell you that direct bookings don't happen by accident. They come from staying in touch with your guests and building relationships with them over time. And that requires data most operators simply don't have. Stayfi solves a problem that has frustrated property managers for years. When guests connect to your Wi-Fi, Stayfi captures their contact details, not just from the lead booker, but from everyone staying in the property. Over time, that adds up. I've seen portfolios collect tens of thousands of guest emails in less than a year, and larger operators are now building lists of 50,000 or more, and using that as a genuine growth channel. But the data is only useful if you do something with it, and Stayfi handles that too, through automated emails, post-stay follow-ups, and campaigns designed to bring guests back. One operator I spoke with grew direct bookings from 0 to 30% in about a year and a half. Another team generated $35,000 in repeat bookings in their first 6 months from email marketing alone. If you don't have the capacity to manage it yourself, they now offer a managed email marketing service where their team handles the strategy and the execution for you. They've also made setup more accessible with a new hardware option called Aginet, which runs up to 40% cheaper than previous systems. Head to stayfi.com/VR success to learn more and get 50% off your first 3 months. Okay, so somebody wants to try this for the first time. That is your coffee, your startup thing is the first thing that they should do.
Honestly, the first thing you should do is organize your system. I would do that before I started in on skills. If you've been playing with Claude for a while, especially if you've downloaded it to your desk and are using the downloaded version at all, if anybody is, then you may realize that the organizational system is extremely important. I'm actually teaching this in a webinar in a couple of weeks to another group. But how to set it up, look into that because it is really important that it's set up right from the start. I spent probably about 4 hours one day resetting up everything of mine because more than that, probably 8 hours. So I think it's actually the most important thing. And then I also think just Google search or do a YouTube search for fun ways to use Claude. There's so many fun, neat things that you can do with it that I'm not talking about fun like, here, create an image of me as a ballerina or that kind of silly stuff, but fun and practical uses that can really help you with so many different things that I think that for me, as someone who's just learned it on my own as I went, and you too the same way, it's just in the doing. Learning is in the doing.
Yeah, I gave myself a challenge a while ago that I will learn something new about AI every single day.
Every day.
So that could be just listening to Everyday AI podcast, which I absolutely love. It could be, as you say, YouTube video. I found this great guy who teaches 2-hour, 4-hour courses on YouTube on Claude.
What is his name? I bet I follow him. Young guy?
Really nice young guy called Nick Sarayev.
Yeah.
I will put a link to it because he's got a course called AI Agents Full Course 2026, Master Agentic AI. And it's a 2-hour course. And it really is so good. And this is about, it's going to another level. It's talking about Claude Code and Codex and anti-gravity. And to me, this is another level for me. But his delivery is really great. So that's my learning at the moment. And I don't sit down for a whole 2 hours. This one has been going for 2 days, 3 days now. And I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. But I've learned a ton of stuff. And I can safely say at the end of the day, I learned something new today.
Yeah. What I did was my morning coffee skill just a couple of weeks ago, because I get all these AI newsletters and podcast alerts. And I had it prioritize them every morning for the one that I'm going to read or listen to that day. And it gives me it usually gives me 3 to choose from. And it says, this one is about this. This one is very useful for you because of this and this. And so that's how I choose which one I'm going to read or listen to that day, because it is, and it learns as you go. So I'll tell it. I read
so
this.
Step back a bit. So how do you get that information? How do you get that to deliver that information?
I have it read my emails.
Okay. All right. So these are the hundreds of AI newsletters that come into your inbox.
So what I did is I created a filter in my email, a label in my Gmail for AI, and everything now goes to that label. And Claude reads that every single day and gives me a synopsis of what's included and which are the priorities that it thinks that I will get the most benefit from. And it gives me the top 3, usually 2 newsletters and 1 podcast, because it knows I like to read. I read faster than I listen. Yeah, and that's great. And even just a little synopsis of what's inside it usually gives 3 little bullet points from each newsletter that it's read my newsletter. It's telling me what's inside and what to read. And I love that. I love that skill.
Yeah, because if you're subscribed to Substack, and I've probably subscribed to 100 AI Substacks.
Yeah.
So every time somebody posts new on Substack, then it comes into my inbox.
Yes.
So, I'm going to adopt that. I do not have that filter system set up, and I will now.
Yeah, it's a great way to get it out of for me, when I see all of those things in my inbox, I want to read all of them right away. And then I've wasted 8 hours of my day just reading all these newsletters, or I say I'll come back to that and never do. So this way, I don't have to. It's there in front of me. I star. So if it's one, I'll star it and pin it in my Claude so it's pinned to the top, so I'll remember to go back to that. I do that quite a lot.
Okay, so tell me what you're saying there.
Oh, so in Claude, when you have a chat conversation, so these all come through just like the chat conversations. And this is what I meant when I was talking about organizing, because when I start working with a client, a lot of times they've already been using it and they have hundreds of these chat threads. And so those chats can be renamed or starred and pinned. Like today, Claude recommended that I change some of my Gmail filters, but I don't have time to do that right now. So I starred it and pinned it. So it's at the very top of my Claude dashboard under pinned. It's right there on the left-hand side. So it's just there. So now I can see it and remember it better.
Okay, that's something else I've learned today. Thank you very much.
I have another great skill that I run at the end of every session, or you can go back to old sessions in Claude, and you can do this in ChatGPT wherever you are. But basically, I have it summarize what we did in the thread, summarize what I learned, summarize any documents or artifacts that I need to keep and go find and make sure that I have filed, and then retitle it for me or tell me if I need to archive it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So then the title is right there. So I can just retitle it, or it'll say, once you download this, you don't need to keep this anymore. And then I'll archive it and get rid of it, because I have a real hard time staying organized with all of this. And so that's why I've really been working hard to do that.
You shared your Claude with me yesterday, and I had a sneaky peek at your organization. I thought, oh my gosh, this is organized. So
because I've been working hard at it, because I'm doing this AI lab right now. And as I've had students come and work with me, as you and I talked yesterday, you have students that are working with you, and we see, wait a minute, we need to step back and show them this. And so that was when I was like, I have to show them how to organize. So I need to be equal as organized. So so that's very important, or else you're going to have a lot of mixed up conversations. Like, for example, that brain Bible. Here's a great example of what was going on with the client. They got rid of a property, They actually sold 2 properties and bought a property, but we didn't update their brain. So then when they were creating their 30 days of content for next month, several of their content posts were about these 2 properties. They had 7, were about 2 properties that they've sold and gotten rid of earlier in the year. We stopped working together since then, but he emailed, he's, I don't know what to do to make it remember that I got rid of those 2 properties. So I had to jump in and we did a screen share and found out where he was that needed to, where that document lived. And that's an organizational thing. You have to stay organized as you go, because it's, especially the bigger your business is and the more you have, the more you're running on it. It's just really important.
Yeah, I don't know where my AI got this from. Maybe I said it. I don't think I ever told it to use Canadian English. But I realized that it was coming up and saying, oh, I made a mistake. I used a Z where I used an S, a Z where I should have used an S. And I thought, no, I don't want Canadian English. I want American English. So that's a really good point. I had to go back to my foundational documents and find out where I'd put there that I wanted to use Canadian English. And it was there, and I don't know how it got there. But
it's
somehow it did. But
it's where.
Yeah. So what goes wrong? What can go wrong? Because we're giving this like, this is all magic and it's all going to come together perfectly, but it doesn't always come together perfectly. So what do people tend to get wrong?
Everything. So I think that people tend to get wrong. I think using it right out of the box is a big thing, that they think that it's just going to be this magic that they keep hearing about right out of the box. I've talked to so many people. They get frustrated. It didn't work the way their friends said it would, or that they saw on a video or heard on a podcast. And then they're just like, this isn't worth it. So I think that one of the biggest things is really spend some time going back and practicing and trying and getting that foundation right is probably the most important thing. And then I think secondly, and this is actually tied for first, is not paying for the pro subscription. I used to say that all the time with Canva when Canva first came out, or even years later. You have to pay for pro. You have to pay for pro. It's $20 a month. You have to pay for pro. And I think that's a big mistake, is people think, oh, I'll just use up my time later or whatever. You're just not going to get the same benefit out of it. And then when those mistakes happen, what do? Is just go back to Claude and ask and find somebody that you trust to follow and listen to. Honestly, that's another thing, is there's so many voices that are out there. It's such a new thing. So many people coming up and saying, I'm an expert. And everybody is an expert. As I explained it in a thing I did for the local Chamber of Commerce recently, that was, if you're a 5th grader and you're teaching a kindergartner, you're their expert. So everybody is somewhat of an expert over you, but find the experts that are teaching in the way that you need to be taught. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, because this was always the case with when Airbnb came out and you got all these experts. I've been in the business for 6 months and I know everything and I'm going to teach it to you for $1,000.
Exactly.
And and they were in it for such a short time, and they did have experience, but there is experience gained over many years. And there's the whole business about how many hours that you have to do something before you become an expert in it. Mm-hmm. And so be careful when you're listening to people who say they are AI experts. Figure out how long have they been doing this? What do they have to show for it? And is it just fluff?
Yes, exactly. And it's hard to tell, but I think that's really important, to just to find the experts that you trust and follow them and ask Claude.
Yeah.
And
I actually have, I don't know whether you have an expert board. I have my board of advisors.
Yeah.
And
counsel.
So who's on your board of advisors?
So I don't have real people, but you have real people. I've heard of others that use real people.
Yeah, what I've done is downloaded PDFs of books. So PDFs of Simon Sinek's books, Alex Hormozy, Gino Wickman, The Traction, and all the EOS books. I've got all of those downloaded as PDFs. And then I had Claude create me a board of advisors. Mm-hmm. So if there's something I'm thinking about and I really want to do something new, I will go to my board of advisors and they come up with all these different ideas and perspectives. And then at the end, they come together. So I said, I don't want a jumble of different perspectives. I want this team to come together at the end and make a decision between them. And that is incredibly powerful.
It is. So mine is similar, but what I have is the devil's advocate. And then also I have a marketing expert, and I did similar. I downloaded some PDFs, books. That's my marketing expert. But then I also have 2 client avatars. So I put in my client avatars and their needs and wants and pain points and all that. So that's really 2 of my biggest.
That's a good idea.
It's 2 of my best are from the 2 different client perspectives. So if I need something based on that. And then my favorite is the realist. And the realist is always the one that's, Jodi, you're running 3 businesses. Your husband's sick, your mom is sick. You blah, blah, blah. You've got 3 kids. You haven't been on vacation in a year. And you're working on 2 projects for clients. Do you really have time to do anything other than pour yourself a glass of wine and put your feet up? Like it says that almost every time.
Yeah, I have one of those too. When I say, I've got an idea, let me just lay out all the things that you currently have on your plate before you start working on some new flashy idea. And then it just lays everything out. It says, do you really have time for this?
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, no, but shut up.
So, okay, I'm going to add to this what goes wrong. What goes wrong is when you take what the AI gives you as final content. You've got to have your human in the loop. You've got to go in and look at what it's generated and put yourself back in it. It's not infallible. It's going to produce garbage occasionally.
It is.
And
it's going to lie.
It's going to lie to you. It's going to hallucinate. It's, a whole bunch of stuff. I had my assistant do some research on a podcast guest. And it came up with this. This guy is from British Columbia, and you need to talk to him about the British Columbia short-term rental regulations because he runs a property management company. I thought, no, he doesn't. He lives in San Francisco. He's got nothing to do with BC, but it was just put together this profile that was almost perfect. And it was only because I knew him, and I knew I don't think he's ever been to Canada. So I have no idea where that came from. It was completely hallucinated. And so that when those things happen, it always just steps me back a bit. And I think, okay, you don't let anything go through without putting your own humanity in that loop.
So when you think of Claude as an assistant, then it's very easy to say, I always verify what my assistant is doing. So Claude is not your CEO. Claude is not your business partner. Claude is not, you can call it that. But in the greater scheme of things, Claude is just an assistant with the bare basics of your business. And you just have to make sure it's not making stuff up and doing the thing. And I think that's great advice, actually, is the human has always got to be in the loop. You can't just set it. And like the things that we were talking about, set it, forget, like it drafts emails for me. It never sends them. I don't let it send an email. I want to see that email every single time before I'm the one that hits send. I have a weekly thing where it orders my groceries from Instacart. If I plan a menu, I give it to it, it orders my groceries and have them delivered. But before I hit that checkout button, I always review that list because one time it forgot that I had already made the banana pudding and it had the whole ingredients. And so you just have to check it.
Okay, you've got me on banana pudding now.
Have you never had banana pudding?
I have. You got me on that one. Now I'm now thinking about, I need to go and get the
delicacy.
Yes, that's where I had it. Hey, okay, we've got to wrap this up. So I think we've done a better job this week, this episode, than maybe we did last time. So I think where we got to, we talked about connectors. Mm-hmm. So go look at your connectors, connect with all the things that you use, wherever you can find the connectors for it. And if you can't find them in the list, then you may very well find that if you search, you'll be able to find a custom connection URL. You just go into the platform or the software and you say, do you have a connector, an MCP? Mm-hmm. And you can do a custom connection. So we talked about connectors. We talked about skills. So you could go now and create a skill. What else are they going to take away this week?
The brand voice is start setting up your brand Bible or brain, however you want to refer to it as, and to just get started, depending on which way you want to go with it, whether you want to use it operationally or for marketing and branding. It needs to know your business.
Okay.
It needs to know if you prefer Canadian English or American English. Are you going to misspell the word color for the rest of your life?
Who's misspelling it? That's the thing.
I think we are as Americans, because the word, since English originates.
Yeah, you're just lazy. You're missing off the U's.
That's exactly right. We're the lazy Americans, screwing off the letter U.
Okay, what are you going to share about what you've got going at the moment, Jodi?
I have a lab that's coming up, a new one, August 3rd. It's called the Savvy Host AI Lab. And it's basically me teaching not just AI, not just Claude, but actually the foundations of building your brand and your marketing entire strategy and output with Claude AI. I have a full-on marketing suite team of people, a brand director, marketing director, content writer, content creator, blog specialist, so many things. So I think you can put the link there. It's really fun. We've just finished up the beta round, and I'm so impressed with what is happening and what people are learning and the outputs. And all of it's based on the last year and a half of me using it with my clients and finessing things and making it better. So it's fun.
Awesome. I'll make sure that link's on the show notes, and people could go find you. And I'll make sure there's the other links to find you on your socials as well.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Yeah. Jodi, just fantastic. Next time, I think we should talk about co-work.
Sounds good. Yes. We could also talk soon about Perplexity. I use Perplexity with Claude quite a bit now. So that's something.
I haven't used Perplexity for a long time, and I used to talk about Notebook LM a lot, and I haven't been using Notebook LM, but there's a lot of new things coming out all the time, and it is tough to keep up with everything. So I might go back and have another look at Notebook LM and see what's in there. Anyway, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Yes. Bye.
Bye. Awesome conversation with Jodi Bourne. This is going to be a regular feature. Jodi and I, as you can tell, we get together and it is just geekdom. Yeah, we're just generally geeky, but we do explore new things. And I've learned a huge amount from Jodi, because I think she is that just a little bit beyond me, certainly from the marketing standpoint. So I told you about Jodi's program that starts in August. Do not forget that I have my own program, the AI Ambassador program, which starts on July the 6th. And this is for you if you want to become the linchpin of AI in your company, the cheerleader, the one that collects all the information, helps to disseminate it to the rest of the team, cheers people on when they try something out, helps the people who are finding AI a struggle. That's a big thing. We have a whole week on communication and talking about how to overcome people's objections to AI, because a lot of people do have objections to AI. But if you're in a business, and certainly in this business, everybody's going to have to come on board. So the AI ambassador is the one that embraces the team and brings them into the AI fold. So that's one of the weeks. Another of the weeks is about security and safety and guardrails and making sure that you're not putting data, or that your team is not putting data out into the world where large language models can use it to train them. There's a lot of easy ways for data to be disseminated irresponsibly without people really knowing that they're doing it. So we have a whole week on safety. We have a week on workflows, finding the workflows that you can create agents for. And then I also go into much more depth on Claude and how to create skills and projects. And we haven't yet talked about plugins. There's so much. But we make sure that you have your Claude setup just done right so that it works for you. So each week there's videos, there's workshops, there's worksheets and workbooks. And I know this is coming in the middle of high season, but you don't have to finish it all in the 7 weeks. We want you to come to the workshops and maybe do some of the videos. But after that time is over, then you can continue to work on it. And we have monthly group coaching calls so you can come along and ask your questions and learn more. And the price of the program includes the group coaching for the next 9 months after the program has finished. So if you want to find out more information on it, go to the show notes or go to vacationrentalformula.com. And I'm not actually sure where you go. So go to the show notes and you'll find the link to the curriculum for the AI Ambassador program. And then you can get on a call with me and we'll talk about whether this is right for you. And I'll be very honest about whether I think it's right for you or not. So that's it for this week. I've loved my talk with Jodi. We're coming up with some fantastic discussions on AI next few weeks with some amazing people. So stay tuned and I'll see you again soon. It's been a pleasure as ever being with you. If there's anything you'd like to comment on, then join the conversation on the show notes for the episode at vacationrentalformula.com. We'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to being with you again next week.